Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later, as now it's time to get all battle charged with the latest Earthrise toy that's currently proving a bit of a headache to get hold of. Here's Runabout. Now as ever, this video comes courtesy of TF Source, so you'll find a link to their site in the video description. Right, let's go for a Runabout. Okay, here is Runabout in its box, and you can tell that Runamuck has been looking forward to this one. After all, what's one without the other, eh? Well, now they'll be together again. And here of course is the entire contents of the box. You've got the toy and the gun, or rather it's actually two guns because they do split into two, which is rather nifty. And may I say right off the bat that he looks really quite swish indeed. I actually think this chap wears the mold a lot better than Runamuck, and I don't think that's just the black colour scheme, but it's coupled with the red. It looks, yeah, really quite terrific. Now, I absolutely love that head sculpt, so that for me is a big win. I did like the head sculpt on Runamuck too, but this one, I think it takes it definitely for me. And again, the colour scheme, the red eyes, that all just looks superb. Especially digging that translucent red at the back, I think that's gorgeous. As it is elsewhere on areas such as the chest with the windows and all of that kind of stuff, just looks great. Same goes for this translucent plastic red at the back just here with all that molded detail in there as well. It looks really great. Sadly, a rather unfortunate scratch in the paint on one of my tail lights just there on his backpack. That's not good. Now, as before, he's got the old Joker crotch going on, but it's really not so obvious here actually with the black style instead. It looks much better than it did on Runamuck. I really like this kind of little red trim, this little red line down there as well. I think it all looks great. Big fan of the fact that he's got two guns as well. Kind of makes me wish that was the same on Runamuck, who only came with one of course, but hey ho, can't have everything. What is a bit weird though is that the guns are painted. This is actually red paint on top of black plastic, and I guess I just wasn't expecting that. Why not just mold them in red? But there you go. It does just mean that they might be slightly prone to paint chipping, but we'll see how we go. And is it just me that thinks that these look a little bit more like gas canisters than they do guns? Now, of course, as with Runamuck, you've got this little second set of faux wheels hanging out the back there, and that's a bit of a callback to the original Generation 1 toy. It doesn't look too bad, honestly. I kind of like how it works, if anything, and they just fold away for alt mode. So yeah, overall, he's a bit of a fine beast. I really like how he looks. Definitely improves on the mold from Runamuck, I think. I much prefer the colour scheme here. And again, I just think the black, it kind of wears it a little bit better, if anything. That double gun feature is fun too, and I do love that he can legitimately hold them in both hands. I think that's really neat. Now, articulation-wise, of course, it's all the same as before, but there's a very decent head swivel, and the joint on there is quite stiff, actually. The arms, again, very stiff and will move all the way around, and then you've got another little joint in there to go side to side. You've got bicep swivel in there, no hand articulation whatsoever, which is a bit of a shame, but hey, it's to be expected on Generations toys. It does have a waist swivel just there, which is very nice. Good joints at the hips, which actually go all the way past 90 degrees like that, which is really, really cool. Really don't like the knees, gotta be said. As soon as you turn it like that, it comes unpegged from the joint inside, which I do find kind of irritating. So if anything, you're going to need to put your thumb just inside the joint as you bend it backwards and kind of pinch your fingers together like that. That is annoying because again, if I bend it, you can see it just comes right out. I think actually his right leg, yeah, that's even worse. That doesn't even make an effort at tapping in on my copy. Even if you press it right in, look, I mean, I just press it like that and it just comes straight out. So I do find that a little bit irritating already, I have to say. And then of course you've got ankle tilt as well. All of which means that he is a poser, and yeah, he looks pretty good doing it as well. Definitely digging him more than Runamuck so far. Really though, imagine owning one of these guys and not the other. It would just feel a bit incomplete, wouldn't it? I mean, look, I'm not judging if that's what you want to do, but I'm just saying they go together really nicely as a pair. Look, just do what you want, all right? Joking aside, there is an element to which seeing them together does make me appreciate Runamuck a little bit more, actually. I think, as a standalone kind of bot, I was thinking, yeah, he's okay, do you know what I mean? But if you've seen that review, you'll know I had kind of a couple of grumbles about the paint and whatever else, but actually, as a collective, I think they're really nice. That said, there are a couple of things that kind of pull them apart a little bit. I kind of have a bit of a thing that whenever Hasbro or Takara make, little sets like this, that somehow they always make a couple of baffling decisions that separate the things somehow. I don't know, in this case it's the fact that obviously Runamuck just here only comes with the one gun, where Runabout has two, unless someone tells me that I've somehow mislaid a gun for Runamuck or it was in the box and I missed it. I don't think so. Only seems to have the one, so that's a little bit strange. Then you have stuff like the really nice red translucent plastic on Runabout. got to get them the right way around, on Runabout, on this guy just there, which looks awesome. And here, you know, it's just kind of this very dark grey, almost black translucent plastic on Runamuck. But I do think that the finish overall is much nicer on Runabout as well. Runabout, that's the black one. There you go. Got it the right way around. Not that I mind a couple of differences, of course, and in actuality these guys are much closer than the original toys, which of course had you know, various newly molded parts, depending on which one you're talking about, to give them different models of car mode. They have different vehicle modes. But actually here the only difference really is the head, which is got a couple of newly molded parts. I say newly molded, they're probably all molded together ultimately, these two are made together, but so probably all part of the same mold, but still, and the guns, and that's really it. Ultimately though, I do think they make a really nice set, and you know, obviously they look great with plenty of other Generations toys, as you would probably expect. These are pretty much along with Fast Track, the only real Decepticons that I have at the moment, and Scorponok as well, but yeah, and it's a strong showing. Of course, what's also fun is seeing them versus the G1 originals, and here you have Runabout and Runamuck, both of which actually my copies don't have stickers on them yet, decals applied, just in case anybody's wondering. You do have a lot more red on Runabout. I have the sticker sheets somewhere ready to go, and yeah, it's interesting to see. Now, last time with Runamuck, someone quite rightly admonished me for not showing that actually you can feature the guns on the shoulders like so, in a kind of, I guess, a little nod to the G1 toys, which aren't the most articulated things you've ever seen, and of course actually have their guns clipped in on their shoulders like that, so there you go. And just to make up for it, I'll even throw in a mention that you can also peg in the guns onto his forearms on the sides as well, like so. So yeah, it's a nice enough looking robot mode, but let's check out the transformation. Okay, transformation done, and I've got to be honest, the fit and finish on this guy feels a little bit lackluster, not going to lie. It's just basically how everything tabs together. It doesn't have that really nice, clicky, satisfying feel that you kind of want from these things, and certainly what I would have, you know, more anticipated from a Generations toy. When I got into this kind of whole venture, I kind of had this image of them just being so satisfying to transform in how they click together. And sadly on this occasion, that's just not the case. Don't get me wrong, everything goes essentially where it's supposed to, but it's more just the sort of finer details of how it all tabs together, like on the top section here. You know, the bonnet, everything, it just has that slightly squishy feeling to it, that, you know, you press one bit down, it doesn't kind of tab in all that satisfyingly, it pops back up, then you press again and something else pops up in its place. So I did feel like it was a process of just like managing panels a little bit and just trying to like squidge it all down into sort of a fairly robust and tidy form. I mean, even now it really doesn't feel perfect at all, and that's after a bit of time of trying to squeeze these panels together and get it all flush. And it annoyed me, to be honest. It's a very similar problem to what I had on Runamuck. I honestly didn't anticipate it to be such a problem here for whatever reason, and clearly I was wrong. I mean, it's to the level where I did honestly think, hey, maybe I've just got it wrong, because, you know, the thing doesn't even want to roll. I mean, you can see literally what that one back wheel is turning, and that's it. And I believe it's the same, yeah, on the other side, just the back wheel. And there's a lot of, again, that squishiness in the front section here, especially with the way the faux wheels from the back of the heels fold in underneath the car. It just does not sit flush. Yeah, and this bonnet section just looks really messy on account of those big gaps and whatever else. It's not a good look. And that's kind of coupled with actually this black finish really holding the fingerprints and things like that as you're trying to squish this thing together with such force. It's annoying. Shame too is there's a lot to like about how this thing looks. I mean, again, I love this translucent red plastic on the back there with all that molded detail, superb, and really shows up nicer than on Runamuck. Love the red stripe along here and on the roof just there as well. That's a nice callback to the Generation 1 toy, when you've got the stickers on, of course, and just generally, you know, the colours, everything, it's fabulous. I don't often point out things like Decepticon logos, but this one is really quite striking. It's a very vivid purple indeed. Also a big fan of these white wheels. I mean, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? But they really, really pop against the black and the red and all of that. The colour scheme, great. I mean, I will say if you can get him all tabbed in properly in car mode and you're not too worried about him rolling along in any fashion, then he does at least look nice, and I really like this double-barreled gun on there. I've just turned mine to the side slightly in order to accommodate it. They don't do that in the instructions, but of course if it sits down flush, then actually this handle is kind of poking into the windshield a little bit, so you may feel that you need to do that. Now, in terms of straight-up comparisons with Runamuck, I do think this guy looks nicer. They're both a bugger to transform, man, I'm not going to lie. Like, there's this kind of squidgy squishiness that they've got going on, it's prevalent in both of them. And I really, for some reason, I just got it into my head that Runabout was going to be better in that regard, and it's just not, frankly. It's at least on a par, maybe. But yeah, I do think that this guy looks better on account of the color scheme, and you get less noticeable gappage going on in the alt mode as well, whereas actually on Runamuck, it's much more obvious, much more obvious. I mean, ultimately, I've already done a Runamuck video, but you can really see it in the comparison here in that little join across the top, which just looks, I mean, looks bad, let's be honest, looks really bad. So that's obviously not as noticeable on Runabout. But still, you know, the gappiness and whatever else, it is there. It's just that the black color scheme hides it a little bit better. I mean, ultimately, they do look nice together, so I don't think people are going to necessarily be disappointed in that regard. But I am a little bit bummed, I'm not going to lie, because I think getting into kind of doing a couple of Generations reviews, and some of you will know that, you know, I'm not a big Generations collector by any means. It's a fairly new venture for me, but I was really kind of looking forward to that kind of satisfying click-clack feel, you know, just that where the transformations are very smooth, easy to deliver, you know, you can kind of do it as like a little fiddle former type thing. And yeah, I just don't get that with these guys, because it ends up being a bit of a chore. It's a process I'm not relishing doing again and again and again, because ultimately the end result is not that satisfying. You know, when you have to spend more time actually fiddling around with the thing to squish it all together and get it just so, and even then it's not really, you know, it doesn't end up looking that good in terms of how flush it is. That's a little bit of a turn-off for me, I'm not going to lie, and it's just not what I imagine these guys would feel like in hand. And I guess the shame of it is that the design here is great, like really nice transformation scheme, really like what they've you know, cooked up in that regard. It's just the execution and the quality control is not there, frankly. It's not horrendous, it's not a write-off, it's fine. I mean, if you get this guy, you know, you're not going to like want to toss him in the bin or whatever else, but you know, it's just it feels a little bit subpar where it should be, frankly. Of course, here they are with the G1 originals, and I think one thing that really does set them apart, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is that the original toys actually have a significant amount of retooling going on between the two of them to give them different make and models of their vehicle forms, because this guy is a Pontiac Trans Am and this guy is a Lotus, whereas of course the new toys, they are identical in terms of the make and model and what have you. So it's not bad, but it's just a little bit different. But it's still fun to see them all together. Final thoughts then, it's funny because you know, I gave Runamuck a 2 in his video, and despite whatever issues I perceived at the time, and I'm feeling a little bit less generous today, and I think that's on account of seeing so many of those same issues cropping up a second time. It just feels a little bit disappointing. So it's a kind of cautious verdict, I suppose, because there is stuff to like here. The robot mode is really nice, and in theory the transformation is fun. I do like the design, and the car mode looks nice, you know, the red, all of that is beautiful, but it's just ultimately very disappointing in terms of quality control, and as a result ends up feeling a little bit kind of subpar, I don't know. So it's not a boot by any means, but it's not a particularly strong 2 either. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. And you know, maybe that's not the most satisfying conclusion, but sometimes I guess that's just how life is. So that's Earthrise Runabout. Now I'll put a link to TF Source's site in the video description, and I'll be aiming to get a full photo review up on their blog soon. Otherwise, that's it from me, so don't forget to drop me a like if you enjoyed today's video, and have a great rest of your day. TTFN.